Welcome back, everyone. It's been a couple weeks, had a couple busy weeks with work as such. Also, wife and I took a little extra time. We took a couple days out of town, so that kind of ate into some of my days off. But again, this is a campaign that I'm playing when I have time available. I'm not, I don't have a set schedule getting this done, so I do want to say thank you to everybody who's been commenting and watching these videos. I do appreciate the support, and I do appreciate the discussion that we've been having back and forth. So let's get into it. We're turn 1 to phase 3. We have a differential of 4 union initiative, which means one of the action points is going to have to be spent attacking in Virginia, which will do the classic battle bull run situation, but we'll save that for last. Picking our card for the Union, you have one card. It is a West card. And in the Trans-Mississippi Theater, I'm going to spend 1 action point to activate Lion. Move him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 5. Probably doesn't really matter. One of these two. Fortunately, he doesn't have the movement to get to Springfield this turn. So that's a bit of a bummer. All right, second action point, I'm going to come over here to the Eastern Theater. I'm going to activate this guy right here in Parkersburg. And normally it'd be 3 movement points, which only get him here, but there's that railroad there that comes across, and I'm going to railroad him to Grafton to prevent the Confederates from recapturing that point, or at the very least not giving them the free take. So that's action point number 2. All right, action point number 3, I'm going to activate Fremont. Move him down here towards Ironton to kind of give support in this area. All right, taking a closer look at Fremont's tag, you notice he's a 013, meaning his attack value is 0. Defense value is 1. His movement is 3, but his movement has a red box around it. What that means is he's a hesitant commander. And basically it means it costs an extra action point when moving into a enemy threat area. But since there's no immediate enemy threat area where he's moving, it's just 1 action point. Now there's 2 SPs with them. I could have used the railroad down there, but since I already used 1 railroad point in the Eastern Theater, I couldn't use railroad movement this case because I'd only be able to move 1 SP instead of 2. Action point number 4 is going to be in the Eastern Theater, and we'll zoom in to the main event for this phase. I'm going to activate McDowell. And move. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a movement point to regroup. From Washington, and move these 4 SP into Alexandria. And I do believe normally you're limited to the number of SPs that you can do that for when crossing a river, but looking at the Washington Alexandria area, it's a continuous line going across there, so there's no additional movement penalty to cross that. So that's just free there. So we're going to have 8 SP with McDowell attacking into Alexandria here, and this, or excuse me, not Alexandria, Manassas. And the Confederates have Beauregard with 4 SP, but we're going to utilize the special bonus rule that Joseph Johnson up here can also do a 2-hex interception into from up here into Manassas to support that. So, and again, normally these types of reinforcements you're only allowed a 1 hex away, but this is a special rule for the Confederates that allows them to do this basically in this situation only. So it's going to be a 2d6 roll. You need to get a 9 or higher. We're going to add Johnson's defensive rating, which is 2, but because it crosses a mountain hex side with railroad, it's a -1. So 2d6 plus 1 in total. You need to get a 9 or better. That would be an 11. A 5 and a 6. So we didn't even need the bonuses, but he got it anyway. So what that means is Johnson moves into the hex with 2 SP, because that's all he had there. Now Johnson does take command, and because there's only 6 SP, only 1 commander, so basically Johnson's defensive score is what is used, which in this case is better because Johnson's defensive score is higher than Beauregard's. So the Confederates are defending with 6 SP, and they get a +4 to the die roll, +2 for Johnson's defensive score, then +2 for the defensive works. The Federals have 8, but they only get to use McDowell's offensive bonus, so they get to roll 2d6, but they get a +0, so it's a straight 2d6 against the Confederate 1d6 +4. Looking at that, the Confederates rolled a 2 with their +4 bringing it to a 6, and the Federals have a 3. Looking at the results, Confederates total 6, a 1 star. So the Federals will lose 1 SP, and the Federals only did 1 because they rolled a 3. So 1 star, the Confederates win the battle, 1 star beats a 1-0. This is what those symbols mean. So each side loses 1, but because the Confederates have the star, sorry, right there, they are the victors of this battle. So for starters, Federals lose 1 SP. Because the Federals lost and they were the attacker, they only have to retreat 1 hex so they can move back into Alexandria with their defensive works. But because they lost, they become demoralized. Basically what that means is it's a penalty against an attacker until they rally off that status. It does not affect them if they're on the defense. Confederates are the victors, but they still lost one. So we still have this west card, so that we've used all 4 action points, and we still have this west card, contemplating whether to use it to, I think for the moment I'm going to hold on to it. Because as things stand, it's going to be the end of the turn, and I'll be able to do a lot of shuffling around with troops, so I don't necessarily need to move any troops in the west right now, because I'll be able to do that during the pre-turn phase of next turn. So that ends the Union player action phase, and because these entrenchments up here have no more troops in it, even though they're Confederate, the entrenchments go away. And that should clear that, and when I come back, it'll be the Confederate action phase for turn 1, phase 3. All right, here we are for the Confederate portion of turn 1, phase 3. So I do know for a fact, part of our plan is to get the Confederates across the river. So we're going to activate Polk in Mississippi, or excuse me, Memphis. He's got a 4 movement and get him across. Now at this point, the Mississippi River is Confederate controlled. We have the fort down here that's under Confederate control, all the way up through to this fort here. So that means there aren't any penalties for the Confederates to cross. So Polk has 4 movement points. It does cross an extra point across the river, so it's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to move them up here to 4. Price isn't going to move. There's no reason for him to move, so we're not going to do anything with that. I do think, though, we are going to move Johnson back up to protect against Patterson up there in Harper's Ferry. Especially since this being the end of the turn, we're going to have strategic movement. The Confederates will be able to move troops into reinforced Beauregard and such. So here's Johnson to activate 1, 2, and he's going to end up taking 2 peeps. So we're going to leave Beauregard with 3. So there's 1, 2. And again, even though there's a mountain hex there, it doesn't, or mountainside, because there's the railroad that goes across there, it doesn't cost anything to, there's no penalty for crossing that point. All right. And then because Johnson has 2 movement points left, he's going to use the remaining, his remaining movement points to build another set of entrenchments there. There we go. Now we're going to spend an action point, so that's 2 action points spent, we have 2 left. Now we'll spend an action point, even though it's basically a 1-to-1, I don't think the Confederates can afford not to at least try. So we're going to activate this stack here and attack into Grafton. So 1-to-1, they're basically rolling on this column here. Ooh. So that definitely works out in the Confederates' favor. Confederates rolled a 6, so there's 1 Federal casualty. The Federals got a 2, which is just a diamond. All right, so what that means is the Federals lose 1 casualty, but because West Virginia is technically Confederate controlled, them just being there removes the control marker from Grafton, which means that the Confederate resource points increased by 1 because they gained control of Grafton, and the Federal victory points goes down by 1. Because control is basically happens immediately at that point. All right, so that is 3 of 4 action points. We've got 1 more. I could activate Nashville and have him move somewhere, but or I could move Charleston and have him move somewhere, but I think I'll save that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that last activation point and spend it as 1 training point. Basically what that means is once you've accumulated 7 training points, you get an extra SP to place on the map. There are some restrictions in some situations, but for the most part, you can, generally speaking, place it anywhere you want. So that's it for the turn. Turn 1. Now we come to the end phase. All right, in the end phase, we have the control segment, and there's 3 things that we need to do. The first is Confederate control of the North. We have no Confederate markers in the North, so that doesn't apply. First thing we do is hex control, place control markers. So the only one that comes into effect here is McClellan and Charleston. So place a control marker in Charleston. So what that does to our VPs then basically just does what the Confederates did when they took Grafton. The Confederate victory points go up to 3, and the Confederate build points go down 1, so they're at 97 again. Then we look at Confederate control of the North, which does not apply, and then state control, determine the control of the border states at this time. So Union started control in Missouri, and basically Confederates have to place control markers in their area. So since they didn't capture all of the hexes, the Union still has control in Missouri. In West Virginia, the same applies to the Confederates. Confederates started control of West Virginia, and because they're able to capture Grafton at the very end there, the Federals do not get control of West Virginia. So West Virginia is still under Confederate control. In turn rally, all demoralized units that have LSC or to a supply source immediately rally, while the Union Army of Potomac is in full supply, so they remove that demoralized marker there. And automatic victory. We do not have to worry about automatic victory, but just to see what we're looking at, we're going to look at the turn track. So basically the turn track here, with this number 2, that's telling us it's basically a schedule that the Union player has to follow. Basically, there's a number of things that go into calculating automatic victory, or specifically what victory points. And the victory points have to basically follow this number track on the turn track. And if it's 12 or more, so basically if the Union has 12 or more victory points than the number shown on that specific turn, then it's an automatic victory for the Union. If the Union victory points are 12 or less than the number shown, then it's an automatic victory for the Confederates. If not, if it falls in between that window, then the game keeps going. And right now the Union has 3 victory points basically for the 3 victory points that they have for the captured cities and objective points. So at the end of turn 1, they would have to have been at a 14 basically, and they're nowhere near that, so the game continues to turn 2. All right, that is the conclusion of turn 1. I'm going to go ahead and advance the turn marker to turn 2, and I will wait until the next video to do the reinforcement phase and all of the beginning turn stuff. All right, that's it for this time. I do appreciate you guys coming along and commenting and liking my videos. I do appreciate that, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.